The morning sun rose over New Terra like any other day. Farmers walked through fields of golden wheat that swayed in the gentle breeze. Children played in the streets of small towns while their parents prepared for another day of honest work. Nobody expected what was coming. Captain Derek Walsh stood on the bridge of the horizon, reviewing supply manifests. His ship was 3 days away from New Terra, carrying medical supplies and equipment for the colony's new hospital. The colony had been thriving for 5 years now, home to 50,000 people who had left Earth seeking a simpler life among the stars. The distress signal came without warning. "Captain, we're receiving an emergency transmission from New Terra," said the communications officer, her voice shaking. Derek rushed to her station. "Put it through." The voice that came through was filled with terror and pain. "This is New Terra Colony. We're under attack, ships in orbit. They're firing on the surface. Oh God, the western settlement is gone. Please, someone help." The transmission ended with a scream and then static. Derek's blood ran cold. Navigation, plot the fastest course to New Terra. Engineering, I need maximum speed now. "Captain, we're 3 days out even at full speed," the navigator replied. "Then we'll get there in 2. Move." The horizon pushed its engines beyond safe limits, racing toward the colony. Derek immediately sent word to Earth Command, knowing that Admiral Linda Harper would receive the message in hours due to the distance. When the horizon finally arrived at New Terra, Derek wished he hadn't. The planet's surface was scarred with massive craters where towns had stood. Fires raged across what had been farmland. The orbital sensors showed minimal life signs. "Take us down," Derek ordered quietly. "Search for survivors." They found 3,000 people alive, most of them badly injured. They had survived only because they were in underground shelters or far from the initial bombardment sites. The survivors told the same story. Ships bearing the markings of the Zoltheran Empire had appeared in orbit without warning. They hadn't sent any message or demand. They had simply opened fire. Admiral Linda Harper received the news at Earth Command headquarters. She was a veteran of 30 years, a woman who had worked her way up through the ranks with skill and determination. She had seen conflict before, but this was different. This was the murder of innocent civilians. She immediately contacted Ambassador Paul Griffin at the Galactic Council Station. "Paul, we need the Council to act now," Linda said. This was an unprovoked attack on a civilian population. Paul Griffin was a diplomatic man, someone who believed in peaceful solutions. But even he felt rage at what had happened. "I'm calling for an emergency session. I'll demand justice." The Galactic Council met within hours. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the great circular chamber. Ambassador Griffin stood before them, his face grave. "The human colony of New Terra has been destroyed," he began. 47,000 civilians are dead. The Zoltheran Empire attacked without provocation, without warning, and without mercy. The council chamber filled with murmurs. The Zoltheran representative, a tall creature named Crothon, rose from his seat. "The Zoltheran Empire acted in self-defense," Crothon said coldly. "Human expansion threatens our borders. We acted to prevent future aggression." Griffin's hands clenched into fists. New Terra was a farming colony. They had no weapons, no military presence. Your ships murdered families while they slept. Council Speaker Veldar, an ancient being from a species that had belonged to the Council for thousands of years, raised a hand for silence. "This matter requires investigation," Veldar said. "We must examine all evidence before taking action. In the meantime, we offer our thoughts and condolences to the human people." Griffin couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Thoughts and condolences? We're talking about mass murder. We demand justice. We demand action." But the council dissolved into political debate. Some species worried about offending the powerful Zoltheran Empire. Others questioned whether humans, who had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, truly understood the situation. Many simply didn't care enough to risk conflict. Griffin returned to his office and immediately contacted Admiral Harper. "They're not going to do anything, are they?" Linda asked. "No," Griffin replied bitterly. "They see us as newcomers. They think we'll accept mediation and eventually forget about this." Linda was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke with steel in her voice. I'm requesting authorization from Earth's government for a military response. Are you sure? Griffin asked. The Council will see that as escalation. Paul, they killed 47,000 of our people and offered thoughts and condolences. The Council has made its position clear. Now we'll make ours clear. Within hours, Earth's government granted authorization. Linda Harper began mobilizing humanity's military forces. The Zoltheran Empire had made a fatal mistake. They had judged humanity by the standards of other galactic species. They assumed humans would follow the same patterns, accept the same limitations, bow to the same pressures. They were about to learn that humans were different. Earth had not known peace for most of its history. Humanity had fought itself for thousands of years, developing weapons and tactics that the galaxy had never imagined. Now, for the first time, all that knowledge and capability would be directed outward. The Zoltheran Empire had awakened something that should have remained asleep. They would soon discover that humanity's desire for peace was not the same as weakness. The war machine was stirring, and the galaxy was not ready for what was coming. The command center at Earth's military headquarters hummed with activity. Admiral Linda Harper stood before a massive holographic display showing the known galaxy. Red markers indicated Zoltheran military positions. Blue markers showed Earth's forces. The difference in numbers was stark. They outnumber us 3-1, said Commander George Blake, head of Earth's Stealth Operations Division. He was a quiet man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Numbers aren't everything, Linda replied. What do we know about their military capabilities? Lieutenant Nicole Martinez stepped forward with her report. She was young but brilliant, one of the best tactical minds in Earth's fleet. The Zoltheran Empire has 17 military outposts scattered across their territory. 3 major fleet concentrations. Their weapons are primarily energy-based. Plasma cannons and particle beams. And their tactics? Linda asked. Straightforward, Nicole said. They engage at medium range with overwhelming firepower. They don't use coordinated maneuvers or complex strategies. Most galactic warfare follows this pattern. It's more about who has bigger guns than who uses them better. Linda smiled grimly. Then they've never faced a human military. Commander Blake pulled up reconnaissance data. I've been studying their positions. They're confident. Too confident. Their outposts have minimal defensive systems. They don't expect anyone to attack them. Because no one in the galaxy thinks that way, Linda said. They mediate. They negotiate. They posture. But they don't wage real war. She turned to address the room full of officers. Humanity has been fighting wars for 5,000 years of recorded history. We've developed tactics and strategies that these species can't imagine. We've fought on land, sea, air, and now space. We know combined arms. We know logistics. We know that war isn't just about firepower. It's about speed, surprise, and breaking the enemy's will. Captain Ryan Cooper, commander of Earth's fastest strike fleet, spoke up. What's the plan, Admiral? Linda activated the holographic display, and it shifted to show a complex attack pattern. We hit them everywhere at once. All 17 outposts, simultaneously. They'll expect us to strike where we're strongest. Instead, we'll strike everywhere they're weakest. The room fell silent as the officers studied the plan. It was bold. It was dangerous. It required perfect coordination across light years of space. Lieutenant Martinez, you'll coordinate the timing, Linda continued. Every strike needs to happen within a 6-hour window. Commander Blake, your teams go in first. I need those command and control systems blind before the main assault. George nodded. We'll need 2 weeks to get into position. You have 10 days, Linda replied. Captain Cooper, your strike fleet departs tomorrow. You'll carry the new quantum drives. Fast in, fast out. Hit them before they know you're there. Ryan studied the tactical display. The quantum drives are still experimental. They work. I've seen the test results. You'll be able to jump in and out of systems faster than their sensors can track. Over the next week, Earth's military mobilized with a speed that surprised even the most optimistic projections. Ships that had been in dock for maintenance were brought online. Weapons that had been considered too aggressive for peacetime were loaded and armed. Crews trained around the clock. The Galactic Council noticed the activity. Ambassador Griffin received daily inquiries about Earth's intentions. He answered each one the same way. "We are responding to an attack on our people. We have offered diplomatic solutions. They were rejected. Now we will pursue other options." The Council didn't take the threat seriously. In their experience, military posturing was just another form of negotiation. They expected humanity to make demands, accept a compromise, and everyone would move forward. The Zoltheran Empire was even less concerned. Crothon addressed his military commanders with contempt in his voice. "The humans are making noise," he said. "Let them. They have a handful of ships. We have fleets. They are new to the galaxy. We have dominated this sector for 1,000 years. If they come, we will crush them as easily as we crushed their farming colony." His commanders agreed. They had seen the human ships. They were small, lightly armed compared to Zoltheran dreadnoughts. The idea that humanity posed a real threat seemed laughable. Commander Blake's teams slipped into Zoltheran space like ghosts. They used ships designed for stealth, powered down to minimal signatures, drifting on momentum rather than active drives. It took them 8 days to reach their positions near the 17 outposts. George watched his teams deploy from the command ship. Each team had a specific mission. Plant signal jammers. Map defensive positions. Identify command centers. Prepare the battlefield. "All teams report ready," his communications officer said. George sent the encrypted message back to Earth. "We're in position. Waiting for the go signal." Lieutenant Nicole Martinez sat in the tactical center on Earth, monitoring 17 different operations simultaneously. Her screens showed real-time data from Blake's teams, Cooper's strike fleet, and supporting elements scattered across space. "All units synchronized," she reported to Admiral Harper. "We're ready to execute Operation Thunderfall." Linda looked at the countdown clock. 48 hours until the attack began. She thought about the 47,000 dead on New Terra. She thought about the Council's empty condolences. She thought about how the galaxy would change after this. "Send the order," she said quietly. "Execute on schedule." The message went out through quantum communication channels. Across hundreds of light-years, human forces received their final orders. This wasn't a police action. This wasn't peacekeeping. This was war, and humanity was very good at war. Captain Ryan Cooper briefed his fleet commanders one last time. "Remember, we go in fast and we hit hard. The Zoltherans think warfare is about standing and trading shots. We're going to show them it's about movement, precision, and overwhelming force applied at the right moment." His ships began their final jump calculations. The quantum drives would allow them to appear in Zoltheran space with almost no warning. They would have minutes to complete their objectives before enemy forces could respond. The Galactic Council continued their debates, unaware that diplomacy had already failed. They discussed sanctions that would never be implemented and compromises that would never be accepted. Ambassador Griffin watched the debates with cold eyes. He had tried the peaceful path. He had believed in the Council's justice. Now he would watch as humanity taught the galaxy a different lesson. The countdown continued. War was coming, and the galaxy had no idea what human war truly meant. The attack began at exactly 0400 hours, Galactic Standard Time. Commander George Blake's teams activated their signal jammers simultaneously across all 17 Zoltheran outposts. Within seconds, communication networks went dark. Command centers found themselves unable to contact their own ships. Sensor arrays fed false data to confused operators. "Jammers active," George reported from his stealth ship. "All targets are blind." 2 minutes later, Captain Ryan Cooper's strike fleet materialized out of quantum jumps at the edges of each target system. The Zoltherans had never seen ships move this way. One moment their sensors showed empty space. The next, human vessels appeared as if from nowhere. The nearest Zoltheran outpost was Outpost 7, a military station orbiting a gas giant. The station commander stared at his screens in confusion as 15 human ships appeared 3,000 kilometers away. "Sound the alarm," he ordered. "All weapons, fire at will." But the station's targeting systems were scrambled by Blake's jammers. Plasma cannons fired randomly into space, hitting nothing. The commander reached for his communication panel to call for reinforcements. Dead silence answered him. Captain Cooper's voice came over an open channel. "Zoltheran Outpost 7, you have 60 seconds to evacuate to your escape pods. After that, we open fire." The station commander laughed. "You think your tiny ships frighten us? We have armor that can withstand anything you have." 50 seconds, Cooper replied calmly. The commander ordered his weapons to continue firing. A few plasma bolts came close to human ships, but they moved with a speed and agility that stunned the Zoltherans. The human vessels didn't fly in straight lines or predictable patterns. They twisted, rolled, and danced through space like fighters, not warships. 30 seconds. The station commander finally felt the first touch of doubt. "All weapons, concentrate fire on the lead ship." Every cannon on the station turned toward Cooper's flagship. They fired in unison, sending a wall of plasma toward the human vessel. The ship simply wasn't there anymore. It had rolled away at the last second, and the plasma dissipated harmlessly into space. 10 seconds, Cooper said. "I strongly suggest you evacuate." The commander's pride wouldn't let him retreat. "Never. We are Zoltheran. We do not run from inferior species." "Your choice," Cooper replied. "Time's up." The human ships opened fire, and the Zoltherans learned what true precision warfare looked like. Instead of energy weapons that spread and dissipated, the humans used railguns. Solid projectiles moving at a fraction of light speed, carrying kinetic energy that no armor could stop. The first volley punched through Outpost 7's armor like paper. The second volley struck the station's power core. The explosion lit up the system like a small sun. Across Zoltheran space, the same scene repeated itself 16 more times. Human forces appeared without warning, gave brief opportunities to surrender, then destroyed their targets with clinical efficiency. The Zoltherans had never faced an enemy that moved so fast, struck so precisely, and showed so little hesitation. Admiral Linda Harper watched the tactical display from Earth Command. Green indicators appeared one by one as outposts fell. The operation was ahead of schedule. "All primary targets destroyed or disabled," Lieutenant Nicole Martinez reported. "Casualties on our side are minimal. 3 ships damaged, none destroyed." "Phase 2, Linda ordered. "Let's see how their main fleet handles this." The Zoltheran Empire's primary battle fleet was stationed near their core worlds, a force of 200 warships commanded by Fleet Admiral Vorash. He was a veteran of a dozen conflicts, respected throughout the Empire. The first he knew of the attack on the outposts was when a human ship appeared at the edge of his sensor range and transmitted a message. "Zoltheran Fleet, this is Captain Cooper of Earth's Navy. Your outlying defenses are destroyed. You are surrounded. Surrender now and we guarantee your safety." Vorash nearly fell from his command throne in rage. "Surrounded? By what? I see one small ship." "Look closer," Cooper replied. Vorash ordered his sensors to full power. What he saw made his blood run cold. 30 human ships had positioned themselves in a sphere around his fleet. They had used the sensor blackout from the jammer attacks to move into position while he was still trying to figure out what was happening. "All ships, battle formation," Vorash ordered. "We'll crush them with our numbers." The Zoltheran fleet began to move into their traditional battle line, ships side by side, presenting their strongest shields and weapons forward. It was a formation that had won 100 battles. It was also exactly what the humans expected. Captain Cooper gave the order, and the human ships attacked from every direction at once. They didn't form a line. They didn't sit still and trade shots. They moved in coordinated strike patterns, hitting weak points, falling back before the Zoltherans could respond, then attacking from a different angle. The Zoltherans fired their plasma cannons and particle beams, weapons that took time to lock onto targets. The human ships launched missiles, hundreds of them, each with its own guidance system. The missiles swarmed the Zoltheran vessels, overwhelming their point defenses. Vorash watched in growing horror as his fleet took damage from every direction. His ships were designed to fight other ships that stayed still and exchanged fire. They weren't prepared for an enemy that refused to fight that way. "Break formation," he finally ordered. "Individual ships, engage at will." But breaking formation only made things worse. Without coordination, the Zoltheran ships became isolated targets. Human fighter wings, small craft that were barely registered on Zoltheran sensors, swept in and targeted engines and weapon systems. Within 3 hours, the great Zoltheran fleet was shattered. 30 ships were destroyed outright. 70 more were too damaged to fight. The rest scattered, running for the protection of the homeworld defenses. Captain Cooper let them run. His orders were clear: destroy their ability to make war, not their ability to exist. Back on the Zoltheran homeworld, Crothon received the reports with shaking hands. In less than 6 hours, the humans had reduced his empire's military power by more than half. The outposts were gone. The main fleet was broken. His border defenses had been swept away like dust. He immediately sent a desperate message to the Galactic Council. The humans must be stopped. They are attacking with weapons and tactics that violate all standards of civilized warfare. We demand Council intervention. The Council convened in emergency session. The chamber buzzed with shocked conversations. The images from the battles were being broadcast on every screen. Council members watched in disbelief as human ships moved and fought in ways they had never seen. Ambassador Paul Griffin stood before them, his face calm but his eyes hard. "You offered us thoughts and condolences when our civilians were murdered," he said quietly. "Now we offer you the same. Thoughts and condolences for the Zoltheran military forces that chose to fight rather than surrender. We gave them every opportunity." Council Speaker Veldar tried to restore order. "This level of aggression is unprecedented. Humanity must cease its attacks immediately." Griffin's reply was simple and cold. "No." The council chamber fell into stunned silence. No one had ever simply refused a council order before. "You had your chance to provide justice," Griffin continued. "You chose politics over principle. Now Earth will provide its own justice. We will continue until the Zoltheran Empire surrenders unconditionally or until they have no ability to threaten us again." He turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving the council in chaos behind him. 3 Zoltheran colony worlds woke up to find human warships in orbit above them. The populations looked up at their skies and saw vessels that had appeared overnight, silent and waiting. Captain Helen Brooks commanded the occupation force at the largest colony, New Zolthera Prime. She was a Marine officer, trained in ground operations and peacekeeping. Her orders were clear but difficult: establish control without harming civilians. "Begin broadcast on all frequencies," Helen ordered. Her message went out to every communication device on the planet below. "People of New Zolthera Prime, this is Captain Helen Brooks of Earth's Marine Forces. Your military has attacked our people without provocation. We are now blockading this world. Civilian traffic will be allowed. Military vessels will be destroyed if they attempt to leave orbit. Food and medical supplies will continue to flow. We have no quarrel with civilians. Do not give us a reason to change that position." On the surface, panic spread through the population. They had heard stories about humans, but those stories said humans were weak, easily frightened newcomers to the galaxy. The ships in orbit told a different truth. The planetary governor tried to contact the Zoltheran Military Command. His communication requests went unanswered. The military was in complete disarray, unable to mount any coordinated response. Admiral Linda Harper monitored the occupation from Earth Command. Status report from all blockade positions. Lieutenant Nicole Martinez reviewed the data. All 3 colonies are secured. No resistance so far. The Zoltheran military is scattered and disorganized. Intelligence suggests they're preparing defenses around the homeworld. "Good," Linda said. "Let them prepare. Send word to Ambassador Griffin. It's time for the ultimatum." At the Galactic Council Station, the emergency session continued into its 3rd day. Species that had never agreed on anything were united in their shock at humanity's actions. Some called for military intervention against Earth. Others argued for renewed diplomatic efforts. A few quietly began to wonder if they should reconsider their own defense strategies. Ambassador Paul Griffin entered the chamber and requested to speak. Council Speaker Velvar tried to deny the request, but too many council members wanted to hear what humanity had to say. "You have the floor, Ambassador," Velvar said coldly. Griffin activated a holographic display. The images showed New Terra before the attack. Happy families. Green fields. Children playing. Then the images shifted to show the aftermath. Craters. Fires. Bodies. The council chamber fell silent. 47,000 civilians, Griffin said quietly. Murdered while they slept. Burned alive in their homes. Crushed under collapsing buildings. We brought this to you. We asked for justice. You offered thoughts and condolences. He changed the images to show the recent battles. Zoltheran outposts exploding. Their fleet burning. Their colony worlds under blockade. This is what happens when you allow injustice to stand, Griffin continued. This is what happens when you choose politics over principle. This is what happens when you assume that peaceful species are weak species. Council Speaker Velvar tried to interrupt, but Griffin's voice rose to override him. Humanity came to the stars seeking peace. We hoped to find civilizations that had moved beyond violence, beyond war. Instead, we found that you simply lack the courage to stand up for what is right. You let the strong prey on the weak because it is easier than confronting them. Griffin pulled up a document on the holographic display. These are Earth's terms for ending this conflict. They are not negotiable. They are not open to debate. The Zoltheran Empire will accept them, or we will continue our military operations until they have no choice. The demands scrolled across the screen. Complete disarmament of the Zoltheran military. War crime trials for Crothon and his commanders. Reparations for the families of New Terra. An official apology and admission of guilt. Several council members began to speak at once, arguing that the terms were too harsh, that they would destabilize the region, that humanity was overstepping its authority. Griffin waited for them to finish. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke again. I notice none of you are arguing that our demands are unjust. You are not saying that Crothon should not face trial. You are not saying that the families of the dead do not deserve compensation. You are simply saying that making the Zoltherans pay for their crimes is inconvenient. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representative after representative. Humanity has learned a hard lesson. We cannot trust the Council to protect us. We cannot trust galactic law to deliver justice. From this day forward, Earth will defend its own interests with its own power. If that makes us less popular in this chamber, we can live with that. Griffin turned and left. Behind him, the Council erupted into arguments and accusations. But underneath the noise, there was a new current of fear. Humanity had demonstrated power that none of them had expected. And worse, humanity had shown no hesitation in using that power. On Earth, citizens watched the Council proceedings on their screens. There was no celebration, no cheering. The weight of what their military had done hung heavy in the air. They had become what they had hoped never to be again, a species at war. But there was also a grim satisfaction. The galaxy had tried to ignore human suffering. Now the galaxy would learn that humanity did not accept being ignored. Captain Helen Brooks received new orders from Admiral Harper. Prepare for ground deployment. We need boots on the ground at key Zoltheran military facilities. Rules of engagement remain the same, minimum force necessary, protect civilians. Helen briefed her marine companies. We're going down to secure military installations on New Zolthera Prime. These people are not our enemies. Their government is. Their military is. If a civilian points a weapon at you, you have permission to defend yourself. But I want 0 civilian casualties if we can avoid it. The Marines deployed in dropships, landing at strategic points around the planet. The Zoltheran military garrison tried to mount a defense, but they had never faced human infantry tactics. The Marines moved in small, coordinated units. They used cover and concealment. They flanked and surrounded rather than charging directly. Within 12 hours, every major military installation on New Zolthera Prime was under human control. The Zoltheran soldiers who survived surrendered, shocked by the speed and precision of the human assault. Crothon watched the reports from his command center on the homeworld. Every message brought worse news. His colonies were occupied. His fleets were destroyed or scattered. His military was surrendering without putting up effective resistance. His advisors urged him to accept Earth's terms, but his pride would not allow it. The Zoltheran Empire does not surrender to inferior species. We will fight to the last soldier if necessary. One of his younger officers spoke up, his voice shaking. With respect, Commander, if we fight to the last soldier, there will be no Zoltheran Empire left to defend. Crothon struck the officer across the face. We do not show weakness. Prepare the homeworld defenses. If the humans want our world, they will pay a terrible price for it. But even as he gave the orders, Crothon felt doubt creeping into his mind. He had thought humans were weak. He had thought their ships were inferior. He had thought their military was untested and unprepared. Every assumption had been proven wrong. What else had he gotten wrong about these creatures from Earth? Admiral Linda Harper stood before her command staff in the war room. The holographic display showed the Zoltheran homeworld, surrounded by defensive platforms and the remnants of their fleet. Crothon refuses to surrender, she said. He's dug in around the homeworld and is preparing for a last stand. Captain Ryan Cooper studied the defenses. We can break through, but it will cost us. They have enough firepower concentrated there to make any assault expensive. I know, Linda replied. Which is why we're not going to assault them. We're going to give them one final demonstration of what human warfare truly means. She pulled up a detailed scan of the Zoltheran homeworld's surface. Red markers highlighted dozens of locations. These are military-industrial complexes, weapons factories, shipyards, command centers. All of them are separated from civilian population centers by at least 10 kilometers. Lieutenant Nicole Martinez understood immediately. You want to conduct precision strikes. Show them we can hit military targets while leaving civilian areas untouched. Exactly, Linda said. Any species can drop bombs and destroy everything. We're going to show them that we can thread a needle from orbit. We're going to prove that our restraint is a choice, not a limitation. The plan was risky. Striking targets on a defended homeworld required getting past orbital defenses, then hitting specific buildings without any collateral damage. One mistake could kill thousands of civilians and turn galactic opinion completely against humanity. But Linda knew it was necessary. The galaxy needed to understand that human military power was matched by human precision and control. Captain Cooper assembled his strike fleet for one final mission. This is the hardest thing we've been asked to do, he told his commanders. We need to be perfect. Not good. Not great. Perfect. Every shot has to hit exactly where we intend. Double-check your targeting. Triple-check your firing solutions. If there is any doubt, do not fire. The human fleet moved into position around the Zoltheran homeworld. The defensive platforms opened fire immediately, sending streams of plasma toward the approaching ships. But the human vessels danced between the incoming fire, their pilots using every bit of skill and training. Crothon watched from his command center as the human ships breached his defenses. All weapons, fire. Destroy them. But the humans weren't trying to destroy the defenses. They were simply getting through them. Ships weaved and dodged, taking minor hits but pressing forward. Fighter wings flew interference, drawing fire away from the main vessels. Then the bombardment began. Captain Cooper's flagship targeted the main weapons factory in the northern continent. The targeting computer locked on. Cooper verified the solution 3 times. The building was isolated, surrounded by empty ground on all sides. Fire, he ordered. A single railgun projectile launched from his ship, crossed the distance to the planet's surface in seconds, and struck the factory dead center. The building collapsed in on itself, a controlled demolition that sent no debris beyond its own footprint. Across the planet, 29 more strikes landed within the same 60-second window. Every single one hit its intended target. Every single one avoided nearby civilian structures. It was a display of military precision that the galaxy had never witnessed. On the surface, Zoltheran civilians watched in awe and terror. They had been told that the humans would massacre them, that Earth's forces were savage and uncontrollable. Instead, They saw surgical strikes that destroyed only military targets while leaving everything else intact. The psychological impact was devastating. Crothon's propaganda had relied on painting humans as monsters. Now the population could see with their own eyes that humanity had the power to destroy everything but chose not to. Crothon stared at the reports in disbelief. How did they hit those targets so precisely? Our own forces couldn't make those shots. His chief military advisor spoke quietly. Commander, we need to surrender. They've proven they can hit anything they want on the surface. They've shown they can bypass our defenses. And they've shown they're willing to spare civilians. If we continue to fight, we condemn our people to more destruction for no gain. For the first time, Crothon had no response. The pride that had driven him to order the attack on New Terra now felt like the foolishness it had been all along. "Contact the humans," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Tell them we will discuss terms." Within hours, Crothon's government collapsed. His own advisors and military commanders removed him from power and placed him under arrest. A new provisional government immediately contacted Admiral Harper with an offer of unconditional surrender. Ambassador Paul Griffin returned to the Galactic Council chamber. This time, no one objected to his presence. Council Speaker Veldar looked diminished, older than he had just days ago. "The Zoltheran Empire has surrendered," Griffin announced. "They have agreed to all of Earth's terms. War crime trials will begin within the month. Reparations will be paid to the families of New Terra. And the galaxy has learned a valuable lesson." He paused, looking around the chamber. "You believed that humanity's desire for peace was weakness. You thought our lack of military aggression meant we lacked military capability. You were wrong on both counts. Humanity knows how to wage war because we've been doing it for thousands of years. We chose not to because we hoped for something better. The Zoltheran Empire taught us that hope is not enough." Griffin pulled up new documents on the holographic display. "These are revised security protocols Earth is proposing. Any attack on human colonies or civilians will be treated as an attack on Earth itself. We will respond with immediate and overwhelming force. There will be no warnings. There will be no second chances. Justice delayed is justice denied, and we will not rely on this council to provide justice again." Several council members began to object, but Griffin spoke over them. "This is not a request for permission. This is a notification of policy. Earth will defend its people and its interests. If that makes us less diplomatic, less willing to compromise, less easy to get along with, then so be it. We learned that being nice gets our people killed." He looked directly at Veldar. "You had the power to prevent this war. You chose not to use it. Remember that the next time you wonder why humanity doesn't trust galactic institutions." Griffin left the chamber for the final time. Behind him, the council sat in stunned silence. Captain Derek Walsh returned to New Terra with the first reconstruction ships. The planet's surface was still scarred, but work had already begun. Earth had sent engineers, materials, and funding. The Zoltheran reparations would pay for much more. The survivors greeted him with mixed emotions. They were glad to be alive, glad that justice had been served. But the cost had been terrible, and the innocence they had felt living on a peaceful farming world was gone forever. "Will it happen again?" one survivor asked Derek. "Will someone else attack us?" Derek looked up at the sky where human warships now maintained permanent patrol. "Not if they're smart. The galaxy knows now what we're capable of. They know we will fight back. They know we will win." On Earth, Admiral Linda Harper stood down from emergency command status. The fleet began its return to normal operations, though normal now included a much larger military presence across human space. She met with the civilian leadership to discuss what had happened. "Did we do the right thing?" one official asked. Linda considered the question carefully. "We did the necessary thing. The Zoltherans murdered our people. The Council did nothing. We had a choice: accept that our people can be killed without consequence, or prove that there are consequences. We chose the latter. The galaxy will see us differently now," another official said. "Yes," Linda agreed. "They'll see us as strong, as dangerous, as species that keeps its promises, both the good ones and the bad ones. That's not comfortable, but it's better than being seen as victims. In the weeks that followed, something interesting happened across the galaxy. Species began studying human military history. They accessed Earth's data networks and read about wars that had been fought centuries ago. They learned about tactics and strategies that their own civilizations had never developed. A council member from a species called the Thoraxians was caught on a private recording saying what many were thinking: they fought each other like this for thousands of years. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could destroy entire cities. And they kept developing more effective ways to wage war. What have we awakened? But there was another side to the story. Other species noticed something else about humanity. Yes, they were capable of terrible violence. But they had also shown remarkable restraint. They had given warnings. They had spared civilians. They had used precisely the amount of force necessary and no more. Earth had proven it could wage war as well as any species in the galaxy. But it had also proven it could control that capability, directing it only at legitimate military targets while protecting the innocent. The final scene played out at a small memorial service on New Terra. Captain Walsh stood with the survivors as they dedicated a monument to the 47,000 who had died. The monument was simple, a wall with every name carved into black stone. At the bottom was an inscription: "They sought peace among the stars. They found war instead. May their memory ensure that justice delayed is never again justice denied." Human ships patrolled overhead, silent guardians making sure that such a memorial would never need to be built again.